Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So the video is not working, huh? Is it on purpose?
I would say I believe so. I have the same message. It's not allowed yet.
Okay.
现在你是不是看 speaker 水柳金？
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. I'm Jessica Bai from Energy Rocks. First of all, on behalf of Energy Rocks, I would like to welcome you all to the webinar, Indonesia Solar Storage Energy Online Summit 2022. I'm pleased and honored to join you all virtually. We are thankful to everyone for taking some time out of your busy schedule to participate in this important webinar. Being a tropical Southeast Asia country with 17,000 islands and blessed with year-round sunshine, Indonesia has tremendous potential to grow and expand its solar and energy storage assets. According to the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Indonesia consists of fairly large rooftop solar power potential, reaching 32.5 gigawatts and aiming 3.6 gigawatts by 2025. The world's largest exporter of coal-fired power, fossil fuel resources dominate Indonesia's energy and electricity mix. However, in connection with Indonesia's commitment to achieving net zero emission, the government has actually taken steps to spur the development of renewable energy through the National Energy General Plan, with targets of 23% renewable energy by 2025. In this backdrop, we are very glad to host this webinar to contribute the development and promotion of the Indonesia solar market. We also take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to our strategic partner, Trina Solar, supporting partner, JA Solar, and the presentation partner, Jollywood. And first of all, I'd like to give in a brief intro about who we are and what we do. Energy Box is a vertical media company dedicated to renewable energy, headquartered in China. We are one of the top 3 most influential metering globally. To enhance business cooperation across land and inland and promote green energy, Energy Box events held around the world, such as Spain, Europe, South Africa, Southeast Asia. Up to date, we have had 30 plus events across the world. We are committed to submitting the traditional media marketing model, inspiring unique and professional customized team. And not only that, their existing sales consulting, project development, financing, webinar, meetings, and interviews, peer-to-peer services. I would like to invite you all to join our upcoming event, Solar Storage Conference Expo Indonesia 2022, will be held on November 18 in Jakarta. So see you soon in face-to-face in person. And I would like to give you a broad guide of today's agenda. The first of all, from Benny, is manager of Asian Center for Energy. And the second, we will have the presentation from Trina Solar, Mrs. Elva Wong. And third part, Jollywood, Michael Chen. And the third part, our award 2022. And our final part will be the panel discussion, the viable renewable energy development in Indonesia, opportunities and challenges. So no more waiting, let's kick out today's webinar. And first of all, I'd like to give you a brief intro about the first speakers, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Bailey is a manager of power, fossil fuels, alternative energy and energy storage department at the Clean Asian Center for Energy. He led the development of Asian Interconnection Master Plan Study 3, the regional blueprint for electricity interconnection in the region. He's a project manager of the Asian Climate Change and Energy Project, the first integrated Asians energy and climate change project to support Asian improving the coherence between Asian energy and climate policies and contributing to more climate-friendly development of energy sector. He's a co-author of the Hydrogen in Asia, Economic Progress and Development and Applications. I leave my floor to you, Benny.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor for me to join you all at this important event. And to start with the discussion, allow me to present my slide on the brief on the solar and storage in ASEAN and Indonesia context. As introduced, my name is Benny Suryadi. I'm from the ASEAN Center for Energy, an ASEAN body that represents the interests of the 10 countries in the Southeast Asia region on the energy cooperation. So we act on behalf of the Ministry on Energy from the 10 countries in this region. It covering many issues, including renewable energy, where we have the mandates to support the 10 countries in this region, including Indonesia, to achieve the regional aspirational target of renewable energy by 23% in the ASEAN energy mix by 2025. The same number with what Jessica mentioned on the target of Indonesia energy mix on renewable energy. But today it is only around 14 to 15%. So it's quite a gap that needed to be filled in the next 3 or 4 years from now. And focusing on the topic of our discussion today, I believe this is a story that many of you are really familiar. I hope so. The countries in this Southeast Asia region are located along both sides of the equator. So most have a total annual solar radiation of more than 1,750 kilowatt hour per square meter, which is considered, to some context, is among the highest in the world. From the various data that we have, that the solar generation is above 1,350 kilowatt hour per kilowatt peak in the most part of the countries in this region, making them ideal for the PV power generation. Specifically in the Indonesia context, there is also various data, but in the range of 1,400 to 2,200 kilowatt hour per square meter potential, like we have in Sulawesi, Northern Papua, in the Java, and also the East Timor, including some area in mountains distributed in Kalimantan, Sumatra, and Java. And I mean, totally, my map doesn't include the potential of floating solar yet, because this is also where the countries in this region are endowed with the vast resource of the solar and hydro power. Even though the development of solar farm is often challenged with land scarcity due to dense population and limited flatland. But it will be a good opportunity as in the session of this day, we will have more about the Indonesia plan on the solar. Next, as we are talking on the development of the projects on the solar issue in the Southeast Asia region, and also in the context of Indonesia itself, we have the table that showing you the progress that we have in terms of the development or adding the new capacity on boards. Despite the pandemic situation that we are experiencing for last 2 and 3 years, that the country in this region cumulatively managed to deliver a groundbreaking performance on renewable energy. Particularly, for example, in the year of 2020, where approximately 22 gigawatt of the capacity was added, but then 82% of this new installed capacity was renewable energy, be it coming from solar, wind, or other types of renewable energy. As you can also clearly see in this chart, that the majority of it was because of Vietnam with its skyrocketing solar installment. Vietnam has led the uptake of the solar and including wind power capacity among the ASEAN countries in this region for the last 3 years. This is largely due to the Vietnam's rapid expansion of the photovoltaic solar power, which resulted in total solar plus wind capacity of around 17 megawatts by end of 2020, and then it also a significant amount installed in the end of 2021. But then another story that we can see, obviously today we are speaking in the context of Indonesia, that cumulatively it's quite far behind the other countries in this region, where Indonesia in 2020 is only installed 1,337 megawatt of the new capacity, but then only a small fraction of it coming from a renewable energy or the solar power. There isn't much an issue compared to the Vietnam, where the government managed to have a full commitment to electricity ability, and also strong public support for the clean energy, which become a driver for this development. This is also include like a generous feed-in tariff and supportive investment environment that intensifies the industry. So Indonesia and also other countries in this region could take the inspiration from Vietnam and to focus on the domestic driver for the adoption of the solar in the power system, which become pertinent, which become part of our main discussion in the event today, because it will help the country's energy transition, and also to some context bringing the benefit on the local health and opportunity to develop modern renewable energy system. But then that's the historical number that we have, and then eager for energy transition, move toward renewable energy. More than 60% of the newly installed capacity from now until 2025 will be coming from renewable energy. So this will help the countries in this region to have around 37.6% of their installed capacity coming from renewable energy by 2025. But then this is only based on the plan back in 2020, because as we all know that sorry, last year many countries are in this region advancing their plan, especially post COP26, where the renewable energy become a priority. Again, Vietnam, I said, for example, with the release of the country's draft of country latest national power development, the PDPA, that expand the wind and solar capacities. And Philippines also a strong example with their new energy plan released December last year, that set a new target of the 35% of the power generation in 2030s. And also recently tabled 12 Malaysia plan that also set ambitious goal for the countries to achieve net zero carbon emission through deployment of the solar PV. And of course, Indonesia is also putting the efforts on this energy transition and bring more renewable energy, particular solar, into the table. And this can be seen on my slide that where we are talking about the electricity supply plan of the Indonesia. Where is laying of the foundation plan for the Indonesia to achieve its aspiration to reach the carbon neutrality in 2016, and the commitment that being stated by the government last year post COP 26. So that you can see that yellow number, yellow bar that dominating the projected landscape of the electricity supply plan. As government try to regulate it, this additional power plan of the 2030s will only coming from new and renewable energy. Then starting from the 2035 will be mostly dominated. As you can see, there is the yellow bar, which is massive compared to the others. That would be a domination of the solar PV, but there's also other renewable energies such as wind or hydro and ocean current. But then related to the storage, that we see that starting earlier by 2025 that pump storage is expected to commence with, and then continue with the massive utilization of the battery energy storage system. And I end my presentation with the discussion again at the ASEAN level, but on the energy storage, this is also can see that where Indonesia stands with the other country in terms of supporting the energy storage development. ASEAN countries have been actively integrating the energy storage system into the grid to supply affordable, reliable and higher share of renewable electricity. I mean, the type of energy storage and the level of advancement various, of course, in between the countries, between Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, and others. And also in terms of the technology for the pump hydro, the battery, and also different that we have. Like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand are considered leading states in development of research and development of the energy storage system in the region, where ASEAN still has a lot to catch up. But ASEAN has a good policy, I mean, to positively influence the attractiveness of this energy storage through renewable energy investment, both on grid and also off grids. The screen that you see summarize the market structures where we identify that renewable energy policy have a positive spillover effect on the uptake of the battery energy storage, and the preference of the incentive are seen as necessary in the early stage of renewable energy penetration and have proven successful in attracting investment again in both grid on off-grid projects in this region. But one last note that the addition of battery energy storage system in the renewable energy installation might lead to more competitive costs for renewable energy, resulting in the decreasing need for the incentive. Similarly, in some countries, net metering might incentivize renewable energy generation, but it discourages the use of battery storage because the bill saving is sourced from the sales of the excess electricity. And then the wholesale market will benefit as increase the range of parties potentially involved in the provision of the competitive grid service in this region. But to conclude that battery energy storage could thrive if it's viewed as a complement to rather than a competitor to existing grid and generation asset. But to conclude, I would say that ASEAN, including particularly Indonesia, the biggest countries in this region, in many contexts, many untapped market for their energy storage application. But I'm sure the discussion today will spark the collaboration between us and then how to escalate this progress. I end my presentation here. Thank you very much. Then happy to have a follow-up discussion. Thank you. Back to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Benny. Thank you for your informative share. And the next speaker, we are welcoming Mrs. Elva Wong, and she's a senior sales manager from Trina Solar Asia Pacific. Elva is an APEC senior sales manager at Trina Solar. She's responsible for sales business in Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. She has over 10 years of massive solar PV industry experience and has lived in Malaysia for 6 years. She has strong overview of Asia Pacific solar market. Hi, Elva, are you here?
Hi, good afternoon.
I leave my floor to you. Can you share your screen now and start your presentation? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alva from Trina Solar. You can hear me clearly, Jessica?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So here, actually, we just introduced a bit about Trina Solar in Indonesia. Currently, we are the global and also the local market leader for Bloomberg PV module, and for the bankability, we are in 6 years in a row, 100% the bankable brand. Also in PV Tech, we are 7 top performer PV module reliability, as well as in the PV Tech. Later, I will introduce in detail about the bankability. Also, we have the local team since 2018. Until now, we also have to have local sales representative. And for this photo, you can see it's our exhibition in March in Jakarta. And also we already have the solar farm as well as a CNI project reference in Indonesia. So here, this is our milestone for China Solar. We was founded in 1997, so this year is our 25th year. Also in 2006, we public listed on New York. And in 2014, we became world's largest PV module supplier. And in 2015, we started our storage business and as well as our Thailand factory. And in 2016, we started our Vietnam factory. And also in 2018, besides the solar panel business, we expanded our business scope to the tracker system. We acquired a Spanish tracker company, Necleaf. So now we are also the tracker supplier. Now we are also trying to promote the tracker business in Indonesia for large-scale solar. In 2020, we re-IPO in China and launched our 600 watt plus panel. For now, this panel, we already have SMI. It's also the main product we are selling in Indonesia now. And last year, our module capacity reached 50 gigawatt, and around more than 40 gigawatt is our 210 technology. And this year, we already reached the 100 gigawatt shipment. Here, this is our globalization offices. For Asia Pacific, our HQ is in Singapore. So besides our sales team in Indonesia, all the technical support, after sales support, marketing team, legal team, all will be supported by our Singapore team. And for panel, we shipped more than 100 gigawatt as a developer. We already COD more than 5.5 gigawatt, and we ship the panel to more than 100 countries, as above you can see, and total employee around 17,000. So this year is also the milestone for China Solar. It's our 25th anniversary, and the panel shipment more than 100 gigawatt. Besides the shipment and also the ranking, of course, the financial stability is quite important, especially during the panel manufacture. So this is our last year's financial key indicates. So you can see our operation income increased around 51%, so reaching around 6.7 billion US dollar. And also for the total assets, we also increased around 40%, reaching around 10 billion US dollar. And the module shipment for last year around 25 gigawatt also increased more than 50%. This is our business scope. Majority people know Trina Solar is here, this part. Of course, this currently is also our main product, main business, which around 70% sales revenue from the solar panel manufacturing. Besides the panel now as a manufacturer, we also manufacture the tracker, and also as a service provider, we also provide the utility as a utility developer as well as a distributor PV system. For smart energy, we did the storage system. Majority we focus on Europe market as well as the IoT. So these are the bankability we would like to share with you guys. For the last year, the bankability, China is one of the 100% bankable brand. Also for the PV Tech, China is also the AAA branding. Here is besides the bankability issue, of course, most customer will mainly pay attention to the reliability of the quality. So this is the latest PVEL, the result from, you can see China is also the brand for from 2014 until 2022. China are all the top performers. Here, this is our technology for our module business. For now, what we are selling to Indonesia is 210 P-type module technology. And also now we will plan to sell the N-type for the TOPCon as well as HJT. So these are all our panel with SNI certificate ranging from 450 550, 600 watt, and also up to 660 watt. Currently, the majority customers are quite interested in these two parts for the 600 watt plus to reduce the BOS. So here is our production capacity for panel. End of this year, we will reach 65 gigawatt, which are in these 6 cities, like in China, Suqian, Yancheng, Changzhou, Yiwu, and 2 overseas factories in Thailand and Vietnam. For our solar cell, we will also reach 50 gigawatt. So these are all the panel history from 2009 until 2022. So you can see from last 10 years, actually the panel is only 290 and also only until 450. And like for us, we already phased out this 166 technology. So majority we will focus on 210 technology. So these are the tree now what we are selling, mainly is this part from 550 until 670. So you can see these 2 years, actually the panel manufacture our wattage increment is quite huge. Every year we can increase 50 to 100 wattage to adapt to lower and lower PPA rate. So here, this is why we say Trina, we focus on 210 technology. The 210 actually, which means is a wafer or solar cell dimension. Is we use 210, the bigger cell or bigger wafer technology, together with non-destructive cutting, and also the MBB, multiple bus bar technology. We use 12 bus bars, and as well as we make sure the gap between solar cells can shrink to 0.5 mm to increase the module efficiency. So here, this is our 550 watt, majority now using for the small CNI or bigger CNI project in Indonesia. So you can see the dimension is around, this is a dimension comparison. For this one, we will phase out the 166. So this is 182 technology, and for Trina, it's always is here. So we are slightly longer, but shorter than the 182. So overall, actually similar for the module efficiency. The main difference is here, the VOC. So this is Trina's. So our VOC can lower to lower than 38. This is 182. So VOC is around 50. So the main difference on the VOC can lead to the different module quantities in one string. So from here you can see using Trina technology, actually one string we can connect around the 35 piece panel if you're using the 1500 voltage, and also 182 can connect the 27 piece. So you can see the string power for us can increase around the 32%. So the increasement on the string power can lead to the lower BOS. So from here, you can see, because you can have less string quantities, so you can save your module quantity, DC cable, tracker, or if you're using the fixed structure, so you can save your pilings and the trackers. So it will help you to save around 1 cent per watt. Of course, it also depends on whether it's CNI project or the utility project in different countries, also depending on the labor cost in different countries. It's our another model 600 watt for the bigger CNI project, which already get the SNI certificate for both monofacial and the bifacial panel. The same here, the dimension, it's much shorter. So you can see from 2.25, we shorten it to 2.1, but it's wider from 1.1. We make it wider from 1.3. So here the same, still is a difference, is still on the VOC. So if you compare with 600 watts, so there's two panel for 182, 540, or as well as 585 or 590. So here's the main difference is still here, the VOC part. So you can see for us, our VOC is much lower than 49.5 or 33.2. Different VOC still lead to the your module quantity in one string. So here for us, we can connect around the 32 piece. But if the VOC is 53, so you can only connect the 22 piece. So the module high power is around the 37%. So here it's the same. So you can have the different string quantities. So you need to use different quantity of the founding pilings, rack, cable. So here this is a difference. So you can see still the combiner box, mounting structure, and installation cost. But this is for the bigger solar farm. Also, we have the 670 watt panel, the same, because the low VOC. So one string, you still can connect the 28 piece, even is higher than 540. So the string quantities, you still can reduce the string quantities. So here, this is also 100 megawatt. It's around AC/DC ratio is around 1.2 by using the fixed title. So you can see the BOS can save around 1 cent, and also you can save around 1.2% LCOE. Here is also our tracker business. Most people will think maybe Southeast Asia market not really suitable for the tracker. But actually it's different because current tracker, the pricing is not like a higher like previous years. So now because the panel price also increased just these few years. So actually the lower price of the tracker can really help you to reduce your LCOE. So these are our some project reference in Indonesia. Like here is around 42 megawatt ground project using, at that time we call double glass panel, at that time still poly. So, and also another 7 megawatt and another 7 megawatt. Here are some project reference for the CNI project. Because the project is quite old, like 2017 or 2018, majority are small capacity CNI, but I think last year or this year, it's also quite interesting that now Indonesia majority doing the megawatt scale CNI rooftop project. So that's why we also mainly promoted the 550 to 660 watt panel for the bigger CNI project. These are also some small project long time ago. Okay, thank you. If you have any question, you may just leave in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elva. So the next speaker we are coming, Mr. Michael Chen. He's a senior sales manager from Jollywood. Mr. Michael was graduated as MBA from Business School, Netherlands in 2018. He was a key account manager in Camhill Group, GmbH, and he has become senior sales director of Jollywood Backsheet since 2015, responsible for Backsheet global sales and marketing. He has comprehensive understanding of international sales market and PV backsheet industry. I leave my floor to you, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can start your presentation right now.
Okay, let me, but I cannot open my video. It say the host.
Okay, just wait a minute. We're gonna check the
okay
technical issues. It's okay now, Michael?
Wait a minute, let me try again. Yes, it is okay now.
Okay.
Let me show the screen. Wait 1 second. So can you see the screen now?
Yes, can you make it in full screen just in order to make sure the perfect view for the audience? Thank you.
Okay, so right now, is it okay? It is.
Yeah,
better?
everything fine. You can
Okay.
start now.
Okay. Wait 1 second. So, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Chen from Jollywood Backsheet Division. It is a great honor for me to be invited here as a representative during this very good webinar. And this is also a very good opportunity for Jollywood team to share some ideas about the current solar industry and the PV backsheet industry with all the audience today. First of all, I'd like to give a very short introduction of my company, Jollywood. It is established since 2008. Now we are become a global leading PV backsheet manufacturer. I can say regarding our market research that we are top one about the shipment. Until now, we had shipped more than 80 million square meters to worldwide customers with 0 end user complaint. So this is quite honorable for my whole group. And more importantly, almost all the tier 1 customer module manufacturer like Trina, Jinko, CSI, JA, Longji, and many top 20 solar module makers are working with Jollywood, purchasing backsheet from Jollywood. This provides an excellent endorsement. So let's move on to today's speech. Today, my speech will divide it into 3 parts. I'm assuming that some of the webinar audience may know a lot about PV system, including solar modules, inverters, solar tracks, and so on. But maybe only a few understand what is solar backsheet. So that's why I want to give you a very short introduction about backsheet. PV backsheet, what is this material? Please look at this picture that we will find that for a standard PV modules, it will be composed of backsheet, encapsulation film, cell, glass, aluminum frame, junction box ribbon, and so on. As an outside layer, backsheet plays a vital important role to protect solar modules. A lot of functions showed in the right side of this slide. You can see that it is very necessary to protect the solar modules. Okay, let's move on to the next page. After looking at this page, the audience, you can find very easily that from the chemical aspect perspective, the backsheet can be divided into 2 categories. One is fluorine content backsheet. Another one is non-fluorine content backsheet. And from Jollywood market research, that around 94% shipment are fluorine-based backsheet, and only a few, 6%, around 6% are non-fluorine backsheet. So we are thinking that in the current global solar industry, there are several types of testing standards, such as IEC standards, PVEL testing qualification, master testing sequence. So different customer in different region, in different countries, they will have various technical requirement. So Jollywood team, we are responsible to develop, to look deeper, to design more carefully what is really suitable technical requirement for PV backsheet, especially for those modules installed in Indonesia. So let's move on to the next page. That you can see from this picture that Indonesia has a very particular climate. So after collect all the climate information, we found there are 3 very important characteristics of Indonesian weathers. First of all, you can see in the right part of this chart that UV radiation total volume in 25 years for backsheet, also for solar modules, is quite huge. This is most important one, UV attack. Secondly, regarding to the weather, we will find that in Indonesia, it will has high temperature. So we need that design a high ITR for the solar backsheet. Thirdly, there will be a lot of rain during the whole year in Indonesia. Therefore, backsheet need to be technically designed for especially these 3 special circumstances, 3 special weather characteristic. Furthermore, we have to pay attention to the angles of module installation. This point is very interesting, but always be neglected by the solar engineers. Because if you look a little bit deeper for the page, for the picture number 3, you will find that if we put the modules installed like this angle, the maximum temperature of this module will reach to even 100 centigrade. So this will be a quite big challenge for PV backsheet. That's why we need to find a very qualified backsheet for these kind of special climate situation. So Jollywood R&D team has studied a lot of worldwide solar projects. We found some reference for this kind of harsh environment. I'd like to show you some failure case, which modules are equipped with non-fluorine based backsheet. First of all, you can find that this project was using PA type backsheet, and the start year is 2013, and the service period is only 4 years. And we found very dangerous cracking on the back of the modules. In this page, we found that this modules is using PA type backsheet, and the start year is 2014, and it is founded in Tibet, China, and the service period is only 9 years, but we found a very severe cracking problem and also choking problem on these modules. In this picture, we want to show you that modules using PET based backsheet, and we found very dangerous risk yellowing problem on the modules, which is located in Spain, and the service period is only 5 years, and more than 40% of the modules has been failed because of this yellowing problem. And the last picture, the failure case study, we found the PET based, which is also non-fluorine based backsheet. The start year is 2011. We found in In Mongolia, the service period is only 6 years. From this picture, you will see a very serious swelling and also very serious hotspot problem in these modules. So after we studied all the failure case in the harsh environment, we believe that Jollywood team, R&D team believe that the outer layer and the inner layer is quite important, and it need to be designed with fluorine-based material. So that's why it can help the backsheet to against the UV attack, to against the hydrolysis attack. So we designed the FFC double coating fluorine-based backsheet. We believe that this one is most suitable for Indonesia climate, and we are proudly to announce here that until now, Jollywood backsheet shipment has more than 8 million square meter, and among them we found 45 million square meter is FFC, and more than 160 gigawatt modules has been equipped with Jollywood backsheet. Here are some successful cases of Jollywood modules. One is using Jollywood FFC double-side coating backsheet. The start year is 2010. The location is Ningxia, and the temperature is also very high with a lot of UV attack. And until now, it is still in very good performance, and the service period is more than 14 years. So we think that FFC backsheet will still be white and good for next 10 or even 15 years. These are the other successful cases in worldwide places, like in Argentina, like in Changshu, especially this one. This one is a module installed on the fishing spot, and we can see that there is a lot of water vapor around the modules. So this module has been serviced for more than 10 years. So we are believe that Jollywood FFC type backsheet can help modules during a lot of rainy days, especially in Indonesia. Okay, these are all successful cases which are using FFC backsheet in worldwide solar projects. Last part of my presentation today is the new design of the backsheet. It is a great honor for me to say to the audience, this new backsheet is white backsheet with high reflective black mesh on the top. And this one is, we have a very special R&D project with Trina R&D team. And we using this kind of special design, we are from this picture, you can see that the input light can be absorbed for the high reflection, and the visible light will be absorbed, especially the infrared ray will be reflected. So in this kind of design, modules can get around 10 watt power gain compared with the normal black backsheet. So it is very interesting, and we are happy that after this meeting, a customer can contact me for more information. Okay, my presentation will be over today, and it is a great honor for me to invite it here. Thank you again. Hi.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
So let's move our exciting moment today and our third part award 2022. Thanks to all of our respected speakers for their valuable presentations and insights. Now, without any delay, let's move forward to the award ceremony. Within the global community, we have leaders who are shaping the future through their extraordinary leadership and outstanding efforts. We are honored to have such inspiring role models who are showing us with a way forward to continue building on the progress we are made, that we have been fighting for to create a better and more successful generation. Thus, Energy Box Award 2022 is the highest.
The second presentation first. Thank you.
Realizing and knowledge mention of the leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to announce the winner of Business Leader of the Year, Mrs. Fatima Suwadi. And let's clap our hands. Welcoming Mrs. Fatima. You look really nice today.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you very much for this reputable award. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I would like to start first by thanking the organizers of this distinguished event and the award committee for their kind consideration of my nomination. I'm definitely grateful for the support of my government and the leadership of the United Arab Emirates. Not only do they spot emerging leaders at the very beginning of our careers, but also provide the environment for women to thrive equally within the nation. To be honest, the way I see this, I mean, this award isn't just for me. I see this award more of a reflection of my team's hard work and management's endless support and commitment towards the growth of young leaders such as myself. 6 years ago, I started and joined Masdar, a UAE developer of renewable energy, as an analyst. And today I am leading the largest floating solar power plant in Southeast Asia, here in Indonesia, throughout construction. So once again, I'm very grateful for this award and for receiving this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Fatima. Maybe you have some great experiences and share with our audience any kind of, great experience that would like to address to our audience.
Sure, I would like to share my presentation, if that's okay. I'm trying to share the screen.
Okay, great. We are looking forward.
It shows me that only host can share the presentation. Maybe can you give me access to share the screen? Okay, great. I have access now. Can everyone see my screen? Jessica, can you confirm?
Yes. Yeah, we can see your screen now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm mindful of the time, so I'll try to keep my presentation short. I just wanted to give a very quick introduction about Masdar and what we do in Masdar. So we started back in 2006 when Masdar was established based on the vision of our leadership in the UAE to have a fully to have a company that is fully focused on the development of renewable energy and clean energy sources, and to also to expand the UAE's clean energy portfolio, and not only expand it, but also to go beyond the UAE borders. We started back in 2006, and now 15 or 16 years later, we have already installed and currently under construction and development more than 15 gigawatts of renewable energy across 40 countries. This almost equates to around a gross investment value of $20 billion for Masdar. We have done that alongside successful and strategic partnerships across different parts of the world. And we look into different technologies. Actually, this map gives a very quick summary of our footprint. We've looked into and we have developed in renewable energy technologies for wind, both onshore, offshore, and floating, for solar as well, both onshore and floating. We have also looked into home rooftop systems, and also looked into the sustainability side of green buildings. We have, in the last several years, we have ventured into waste energy. We have actually just recently announced the commercial operation date, the COD, of our first waste energy plant in Sharjah. Sharjah is a small town in the UAE. And also recently we have ventured into floating solar, which I will talk about shortly. With this expansion, of course, it was also a natural thing for Masdar to also expand in terms of our presence in the countries. We have grew from the UAE along, side all the countries that we have worked in. We have established offices and presence in the countries that you see on the slide. More recently, one of the most recent offices was the Indonesia office. And from there, the intention was to further expand our commitment and our portfolio in Indonesia. And actually, because of that, the company that we have, the office that we have established in Indonesia, consists of handpicked experts looking into the development and investment in the renewable energy sector. We have already expressed more than 1 gigawatt of interest in developing renewable energy for and in Indonesia. You probably have heard that one of our first investments and developments is the floating solar power plant in Cirata, which I'll present about shortly. We have also looked into the investment in the CNI sector in Indonesia through our recent investments here. And essentially the focus of, or the reason for establishing an office in Indonesia is not only to grow our footprint, is to make sure that we strengthen our presence in the market. It's very important to be very close to the Indonesian market. And as well, of course, the Indonesian market is a very important market within the Southeast Asia market as well. Other than the floating solar that I mentioned, we have also ventured into new investments and partnerships with Indonesian partners as well as international partners in Indonesia. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we have invested in a new joint venture called Solar Radiance, together with one of the Indonesian conglomerates, Mitra Bara, that looks into the development of solar installations focused on the commercial and industrial sector. And also we have expressed interest in exploring and developing the export project of renewable energy from Indonesia to Singapore that looks around at around 1.2 gigawatts of renewables. And lastly, one of the most recent ones was our discussion and our partnership with Pertamina to also explore renewable energy in this market. The last slide is to give you a very quick idea on the Cirata floating solar power plant that I mentioned earlier. The power plant is located in West Java province in Purwakarta and Bandung Barat Regency. The floating technology, once fully operational, will actually be considered the largest one in Indonesia and the largest of its kind in Southeast Asia, with a capacity of around 145 megawatt AC. We're looking to be powering more than 50,000 homes in the West Java region. The scheme of the project is a 25-year PPA with PLN on a take-or-pay basis. This project is also going to have a very significant contribution to Indonesia's energy mix, clean energy mix target of 23% by 2025. The project, I mean, to signify the importance and the importance of this project to Indonesia's economy and the market, it has been designated as a PSN, which basically means a strategic national project for the Republic of Indonesia. I hope that my presentation was informative. I will stop here now. I will pass it on back to Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a great experiences and share with us. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Fatima. So no more waiting. Let's welcoming our next winner, Impact Leaders of the Year 2022. Mr. Thomas Baker is from Engine. He's head of acquisitions, investment, and financial advisory in Asia. Welcoming, Thomas.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor for me to receive this award, and I would like to thank you, Jessica, Yvette, and the full Energy Box team for this fantastic recognition, which is a great recognition for me, but above all, a great recognition for NG and all the teams that are working on a daily basis to develop renewable projects in the region and to follow the strategy of the group towards a zero carbon transition. So I'm working indeed in investment finance for NG. I'm in the group for 12 years now. And I have to say that it's quite inspiring on a daily basis to work for a group with this strategy to be a leader in the zero carbon transition. And on a personal perspective, and it's shared with my teammates, it's really, I would say, very positive to work and to align business and investment in projects that are sustainable for the environment. So now, if you allow me, I will share a quick presentation I did. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Thomas. Can you make it full screen?
Yes, I'm trying to. Yes, okay. So today, NG is targeting to build the low carbon energy system of tomorrow. So this is really the purpose of our company. So NG is organized in four global business units. So the first one is the renewable business unit. So the intention is to develop and own renewable assets, being mostly onshore wind, offshore wind, solar, and hydro projects. The second big pillar of our strategy is regarding the networks, with gas networks and electricity networks on diverse geographies. The third pillar is the energy solutions. So what is behind energy solutions? It's district cooling, district heating, CNI rooftop solutions, as well as energy efficiency solutions. The last pillar of our strategy is thermal and supply. So it means thermal generation of electricity and B2C retail business for energy, being gas and electricity. So a bit an overview of who is NG. So we are a French company with more than 100,000 employees across the world. We have a global revenue of roughly 60 billion euro, and we have more than 100 gigawatts of installed capacity. The EBIT of the group is 6 billion, and the net result recurring is roughly 3 billion euro. So then our strategy, which is, I think, the most important. So what we want is to really focus on the 4 activities I mentioned you, with a special, I would say, focus on renewables, because on this pillar of our strategy, we target to have an installed capacity worldwide of 80 gigawatts by 2030. And we want to adapt and to have a more and more industrial approach in order to be able to deliver more quickly our projects and to be, of course, more competitive on all the bids and new projects that we are developing. And so now I will focus on one project, which is an example of the implementation of the strategy of the group in the renewables. So this project is LSS3 project in Malaysia. So here we talk about a 136 megawatt ground-mounted solar project in Malaysia with a total investment cost of roughly $100 million US. So for this project, we had a bid in August 2019, and it was a very competitive bid. There were more than 110 projects proposed, so it was a fierce competition. And why we had a fierce competition? It's because in Malaysia, we had a strong political push, and then a strong commitment from all the stakeholders locally that delivered, I would say, international standard procurement process and with an international standard documentation. And so with that, a lot of players were able to bid. All the lenders were aligned as well and able to fund the project in local currency. So with this very, I would say, well-structured environment, it allows to have a fierce competition. And so out of the 110 plus bids, only 5 were selected. So we were awarded in 2020. We reached financial close on the 31st of December of 2020. And since then, the project is under construction. And I'm happy and proud to say that the initial operation date has occurred, and we will reach COD in the coming days or a few weeks. So this project was challenging, especially because it was developed and constructed during the COVID-19 pandemic period, meaning that the procurement process and the procurement timeline was a bit volatile. We had different issues during the bid period and not the bid period, but the contract negotiation period and during the construction. But finally, we made it. So I'm a finance guy, so I will talk a bit about numbers. So as I mentioned, so we raised more than 340 million Malaysian ringgit debt with a club deal financing with MUFG, SMBC, and BNP Paribas, with a tenor above 18 years. So basically, it's a local financing, but with international conditions, which was a great success for us and a key aspect of the competitivity of the project. So this project was the first financing in Malaysia renewable sector to obtain a green loan certificate by Sustainalytics, which is a topic that is very important for NG, and that shows the commitment of NG to go towards a zero carbon future. And this project was also awarded as a renewable energy deal of the year in Malaysia by the magazine The Asset, which was a great recognition of the team efforts on this project, which is, I think, a good example of NG's strategy implementation in the APAC region. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Thomas, for your informative share, and we see the great achievement of Asian. Thank you so much. So the final part, we're going to be the panel discussion, the topic, viable renewable energy development in Indonesia, opportunities and the challenges. And welcoming our speakers, Mrs. Fatima and Suwaidi is Executive Vice President at PT PMSE and the President Director of Mazda Indonesia. And Mr. Thomas Baker is Head of Acquisitions, Investments, and Financial Advisory from Indonesia Asia. And Mr. Benoit is a founder and director from ESO Solar. Mr. Richard Trow, he's a managing director from Shyrock, Indonesia. Our moderator, Mr. Ari, and he's a moderator today and foreign legal consultant and Gilting research picture in association with Ellen OV LP. And our great and honored guest, Mr. Sahu, is from Sun Energy. He's a CEO. So I leave my floor to you, Mr. Ari, and you can kick off your today's debate. I hope you enjoy it, guys.
I'm not sure it'll be much of a debate. I think it'll be a great discussion. And thank you to the presenters who just gave us a great view on panel construction, material science, international development, and finance, which are all very important to the development of utility scale and commercial, industrial, and residential solar, those sectors. And so thank you. I highly recommend going to a material science lab if it's never been to one. So shout out to the Jollywood guy, Michael. I think, and Pop Benny, last but not least, of course, kind of talked about the policies. And really, I think the thing that jumped out to me about Pop Benny's presentation was how Indonesia is doing in comparison to its competitor countries in ASEAN, right? So you see Vietnam, I think, is the kind of really benchmark for adoption of solar, and Indonesia is not really very close. So I will throw this out for the panel and anybody who wants to take it. For both utility and C&I, why is Indonesia, which is blessed with equatorial sunlight and sort of vast resources, been behind relative to countries like Vietnam?
Yes, hi, I'm Benoit from Indonesia Solar. I'm happy to start answering the question. I think one of the main reasons, the big difference between Vietnam and Indonesia is Vietnam doesn't have fossil fuel resources. They don't have coal, while Indonesia is one of the largest coal exporter in the world, and they also use a lot of coal in their energy mix. I would say another big reason is that basically Indonesia doesn't need new power on the grid right now, because there is about 2 gigawatts of coal-fired power plants coming online over the next 2 years. So it means there is a reserve capacity on the grid of 40 to 60%. So basically, Indonesia doesn't really need more power on the grid. So there is already some contracted power already done. So I think that's one of the main reasons why renewable energy are struggling to take off in Indonesia.
Thank you, Benoit. Are there any other views from the panel?
Yes, maybe one point from me, Ari. So first, I think, I agree with what Benoit said, but what I would like to say that Indonesia has a huge potential in renewable. So I have numbers saying that the potential is over 400 gigawatts of renewable, with half of it with solar and a big portion as well, 1/4 with hydro and the remaining with geothermal, wind, and biomass. So that's a great potential. There's some political push, but then I think there is a number of points to improve, so that there will be more projects on the market. First one is the procurement certainty. So I think when you compare the procurement process in Indonesia and in other countries, especially in the region, we see that there is not the same commitment and the same, I would say, standard for the procurement. The second point is the bankability of the global package of documentation, especially the PPA. The local content is also a big point. So there are some constraints in terms of equity ownership, but as well some constraints in the local content. And yes, some creative, I would say, solutions have to be reached to overcome this local content requirement. So, and I think this is a big hurdle, and this is typically a hurdle that is not yet seen. I mean, that was not seen in the LSS3 tender I mentioned before in Malaysia. And the last point is about the land, the availability of the land, the procurement of the land, and the contract structure that is not always aligned with the land, I would say, concerns of the landowners in Indonesia.
Okay, well, that you brought up a lot of points, and that can all be talked about. I think, Benoit, when you talk about 2 gigawatts coming online, I think you're talking about the Jawa Bali grid, correct?
Yes.
So I mean, Indonesia is obviously much bigger than Jawa and Bali. And what about the strategy for the rest of the country outside of Jawa Bali? You know, there are many islands, 17,000
yes.
of them, and it
yes.
is, yeah.
Definitely, and I concur with Thomas about that. There is a big, I mean, it's 270 million population. It's one of the largest country in Southeast Asia. So there is a growing demand post-COVID. The demand is starting to take up, but the Jawa Bali grid represent maybe, I think, 80% of the PLN consumption. So is the main source of consumption. And I do agree with you, Ari. There are a lot of isolated islands and places, and that's, I think, what one of the PLN's priority is to basically replace the diesel generator with some solar and battery storage. So that's one of their high priority. And definitely in this area, solar, there is more demand or room for solar deployment. And it can be quite significant project as well. I mean, I'm not talking about thousands of kilowatt, but more can reach the megawatt size.
Okay.
Just
and, since I'm sorry, did you somebody pass out?
Yeah, just to add on that, I'm Sao from Sun Energy. Just to add on that, there are 2 more things which needs to be looked into. The first one is the coal mining, and the second one is nickel mining in Sulawesi. So these are the 2 areas where I think there is a great potential to install rooftops or install ground mounted system, as well as the battery energy storage system, especially considering the coal and the shifting location of coal mining. So those kind of solutions are needs to pick up, and hopefully this picks up real soon. And as mentioned by the other person, Indonesia is the 4th highest populous country in the world, and hopefully by 2060 it's going to be the 4th largest economy in Southeast Asia at least. So that's going to push up the power consumption, and all these factors are going to overall support the renewable sector, not only in solar but also in floating, also in biomass and things like that.
Yes, and I think the mining and smelter projects that you described kind of straddle utility scale and C&I, because they're utility scale in size, but in structure, they are sort of behind the meter and exist in these business areas. And Thomas, I appreciate what you have to say about the PLN PPA, though it has been financed by multiple international banks. So I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with you on the global nature. Obviously, it is a complicated document, but it has been financed by international commercial banks. And I think Bu Fatima, your Tirata project, which we worked on together, where I represented the lenders, did finance your project, which used a PLN PPA. Would you like to just talk a little bit more about Thomas mentioned the procurement process. Would you talk a little bit about the the PLN procurement process and sort of how PLN can achieve more certainty, which would definitely help developers and the solar community in general.
Thank you, Ari, and yes, we did work together. So in terms of the PPA, generally speaking, and kind of the way the procurement process went ahead. I mean, generally speaking, there are always ways to make things easier for outside investors, alleviating some of the uncertainty with regards to the process, meaning that normally it's much better and easier for us to react as a developer or as a bidder if there is more transparency from the beginning of the process. I think what maybe Thomas is referring to is the fact that a lot of the information might only be accessible at a really advanced stage in the process of the procurement. However, when it came to Chirata, the start of Chirata was quite unique. It started, of course, as an RFP that we bid for along other bidders. However, there were evolvements to the RFP itself, depending on the negotiation by the top bidders. And of course, I mean, in terms of how we look at it as an outside investors also need to operate within a very clear and predictable regulatory framework and environment. So the process within the state-owned enterprises, there are a lot of changes that happen quite frequently every several years, and those changes can present a challenge in some of the administrative processes that need to be completed within a certain period of time or within a certain framework that needs to be followed. So that can present a challenge at certain points in any project. We have, to be honest, on Chirata and at Masdar, we have been very fortunate to have a great partner such as PJBI, who's also a subsidiary of PLN. So we always managed that relationship very smoothly together with our partner, and also maintained a very good communication line with PLN directly. That definitely did help in making sure that we're always ready for what would come next.
Well, I think let's thank you very much. I want to kind of shift gears because most developers, I'm sure many in our audience are also concentrated on the commercial industrial space outside of the utility scale and kind of having the resources to connect with PJB and PLN on that level. So I wanted to just talk briefly. We've had some questions from the audience about sort of the net metering scheme in Indonesia and commercial and industrial, which rooftop. We know a lot about that, and in terms of what we've heard in terms of what net metering is, PLN is allowing people to do, and what the regulations actually say, there's a bit of a disconnect. So does anybody want to speak on the sort of potential of commercial industrial, the challenges, and the kind of regulatory changes that are upcoming in relation to the new and renewable energy law, as well as possibly carbon trading? I mean, I know there's a lot to cover in the next couple of minutes, but Richard, we haven't heard from you yet. Would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously at the moment, the biggest challenge we all face immediately is the restriction to 15% of the DIA on any solar installation. And what I'm very interested to understand is where this applies. We've heard all sorts of rumors that it only applies on Java, Bali, and we're looking to test that elsewhere. But we have been challenged in writing on a number of applications for PLN permits with our clients or within the Java Bali grid. Obviously, there's a lot of political motivation behind this, but equally, there's also a lot of international interest in solving this problem. Huge investments by global manufacturers into the manufacturing industry in Java and Bali, and the threat of the loss of jobs and investment elsewhere if this problem isn't solved. I think there are other matters that make it complicated as well to undertake CNI projects in Indonesia. The lack of the ability for us to operate as an IPP and having to come up with some complex rental and or lease agreement for the equipment so that we can pass electricity through our clients, and the lack of a clear and transparent process for the permitting and how those decisions are made. So I think there's a lot of challenges around the CNI space, and the unfortunate thing is that with this 15% ruling is that many smaller clients will not be able to undertake or have an installation put in because it's not commercially viable for companies like ours.
If
Okay.
if I may,
please,
just
please, Benoit,
jump on what you mentioned, Richard. We are very, I mean, for us as a residential and small commercial installer, we're very much impacted by this 15% limitation, and we are doing as much communication and information as we can with PLN, which is basically, well, it's a rule, it's a directive issued by PLN. It's not a regulation, so it's not something that is, if we follow the legislation, there shouldn't be any limitation. But right now, PLN believes that there is some oversupply, which I can understand, and they're just scared that the market is going to be flooded by solar and everybody's going to export. So I had a meeting actually with some members of PLN yesterday to discuss an application, a small typical application. And what they told us is what we understood before is they're scared of the exporting. So we asked them, so what about instead of limiting the 15% to the installed, to the connection capacity, we limit the export capacity to 15%. That will make much more sense. So it doesn't limit the capacity of a solar we can put, it just limits the amount of energy we're going to inject on the grid. And they seem to be much more open to this kind of solution. So I do share the nervousness, and trust us, as a small installer, we're very much impacted, and we don't know what to tell to our clients. And some of them told us, well, if it's only 15%, no, sorry, I'm very disappointed, but I cannot put a solar system. And from a technical feasibility point, it doesn't exist for a small connection level. Someone who's got a 10.6 kVA connection. If you want to put limit to 10%, it means 1 kilowatt, 3-phase 1 kilowatt inverter doesn't exist. So it's simple as that. So, but the positive point is that PLN is not settled in the marble. It's not a regulation. It's the temporary directive from PLN, and it's going to be studied, from what I understand, on a case-by-case basis. And if we can come up with solution like export limits, that is going to reduce the amount of energy injected on the grid, they feel much more confident. But I think, from what I understand, they simulate the worst-case scenario, like everyone has solar on the roof, which is, I say, look, we're not there yet. It's not Australia, it's not Vietnam, it's not anywhere near this kind of situation. So they kind of be a bit protective for now, but I'm sure there will be solution, and this is a temporary measure. I'm sure that, from one understand, when the demand is going to pick up again post-COVID, this will be back to normal, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we've also made the same proposal, that we're limited to 15% of overspill rather than 15% of the dia. So I'm glad that we're sort of singing off the same sheet, as it were.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are worried, I think the California utilities kind of acted a lot like PLN did 15 years ago. So there's nothing particularly unique to PLN in that sense. Moving back to utility scale, I think I wanted to, we have about 9 or 10 minutes left, and I wanted to make sure we talk about, first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit, go back to Pasahu's point about the smelters and the mining, because I think that's a very exciting sector. And I also wanted to talk about the financing of these projects, which is always important and very important for developers to keep in mind as they begin, to know how they're going to finance their project. So Pasahu, would you want to talk a little bit more about some of the work you're doing or ideas you have about the mining and smelting sector, or anything else really?
Sure. Thank you for that, Mr. Ari. So just to give I think most of us in the panelists knows about sun energy, but to just give a brief introduction, sun energy is working presently in 5 countries, including Vietnam, Taiwan, Thailand, Australia. We have done more than 100 projects in 25 cities of Indonesia. We started in 2016, and today we have a staff of more than 100 plus people in office. And coming back to the mining and Sulawesi nickel industry, I think there is a huge potential, as mentioned previously, not only for the ground mounted, but also for the rooftops, because rooftops being now rooftops are not limited just to 1 megawatt or less. You can have a rooftop of up to 6, 7, 8 megawatt, depending upon the roof structure strength and the roof, the area available with the roof. So these industries, Sulawesi and area in Sulawesi, are not too much explored. And there is a huge potential of putting up plants there. And in mining sector, you have to come up with some innovative solutions, which is like a hybrid system, including solar plus batteries, and try to figure out how we can supply at an economical, viable, financially viable scheme. It depends. There is no general formula to be applicable for every industry or every location. It has to be derived every time. It has to be calculated every time how we can provide the best solution. Also, in addition, I totally echo with the views of Richard and Benoit regarding this 15% regulation. And believe me, no one is more nervous than me, because a lot of projects have been held up because of this rule. Of course, it's not cast on stone. So hopefully we will be able to, not as individual, but as a community, solar community, trying to build up renewable sector in Indonesia. Collectively, we will be able to convince or to present some kind of solution which PLN might be able to consider. I think that's it from my side.
Thank you. Thomas, maybe to kind of bring the strands together, and you were talking about financing. Does ENGIE only, are they only engaging utility scale, or are they looking in the C&I space? And sort of what is your view on kind of successful ways to finance these projects, even in light of all the regulatory uncertainty that's been spoken about, both on the C&I side, PLN procurement, SOE regulation, SOE rules? Just sounds like there's a lot of regulatory uncertainty. How do you bring the banks into this successfully to get the money to build the projects?
Well, so generally, so the idea is to bring the bank as early as possible, and to work, because I mean, I agree with you that there are some projects with non-recourse project financing, but it's from my experience not always straightforward, and it's quite recent that there are some projects financed only with commercial banks. I think Cirata is a good example, and maybe the best example I can give in Indonesia, but it's not common. I would say most of the big infrastructure projects are financed with ECAs, multilaterals, that are basically supporting the commercial banks. So yes, so first is to, I mean, when you bring lenders, so you have to provide them, certainty on the full, I would say, bankability of the project. Sponsors have to usually to provide some strong commitment, and usually lenders as well are extremely, I would say, cautious on all the environmental and social issues, and especially regarding the land and the land procurement. And this is something that I mean, you have to be very careful when you start the development, because it could be a big issue. And I think there are a couple of big projects in Indonesia that raise real issues from this respect.
Well, thank you. And sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
No. Thank you. And I think that brings us back to Bufatima, who built a project not on land and financed a project with commercial banks, and they were international banks. And I guess I wanted to ask you, having successfully done it with international commercial banks, what do you see are the prospects for doing rupiah-based financing and growing Indonesia's commercial banking ability in the project space? Because for doing C&I, for doing sort of a broad-based renewable type technology, especially solar, but all other kinds of technology, to be able to finance them domestically would be enormously helpful. How do you think Cirata can be an example for that, and how do you see growing the domestic banking sector in Indonesia?
That's a very good question. Thank you for that. So, I mean, definitely Cirata was and still is a very good example to the Republic of Indonesia. It was and still is a very, very strong showcase to many parts of the stakeholders on the table, from the off-taker side as PLN, having seen how the financing structure of this project was put in place. Despite some of the challenges that we came across, we still managed to sit down on one table, discuss, and find a way to move forward. Same thing on the partnership side. I mean, on the sponsor side, Masdar and PGBI, venturing into such a uniquely challenging technology, and also in a very special market such as Indonesia in this region. So we have noticed that the international commercial banks have become much more open to Indonesia as a market, given that we're seeing the regulatory framework somewhat evolving in, we can say, close to the right direction. And we're seeing more flexibility being introduced by the regulatory bodies. From the perspective of Cirata, we're also I'm also personally quite optimistic that it will not only be an example from a perspective of the developers coming into the Indonesian market and venturing into, in some cases, complex and unique locations in Indonesia, but also it's going to be a very strong push to the financiers in this region and also domestically. We have seen quite a lot of interest from local banks to try to understand how the financing structure was put in place, trying to also assess the risk profile of this project as to other examples in the country. And I think also from the PLN perspective, we have seen a bit more flexibility than you would normally see, I guess, in other projects. They're much more open to discussing outside the contract and outside the box solutions, or even implementation measures to be able to get to a point where you are not only helping the achievement of the clean energy mix in Indonesia, but also advancing the implementation scheme for non-recourse project finance for renewable energy here.
Okay. Well, let's leave it on that hopeful note, Boo. I'd like to thank all the panelists for their time and for keeping us right on our time budget, which is always nice to be on budget. And I'd like to thank the Energy Box crew for putting this very nice panel together in this program. Yeah, we really appreciate everybody for joining us in the audience. Thank you very much. And I'll send it back to the Energy Box group. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, all our panelists and speakers. I'm so honored to be with you together today. So time is so fast, and we have to say goodbye for all of our participants and speakers. We will see you next time. Thank you so much for staying with us. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.